What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. I'm your boy NarikChase, and in this video we're going to be reviewing Wrong Divinity. Oh shit, I effing hate spiders. Yeah, that's the title. So anyways, this book was written by Dustin Tigner and is book one of the Arachnomancer lit RPG series, which he ended up publishing in 2023. There's 3 books, and he's had a plethora of other books, and I haven't really read anything else that he's come with, but I wanted to just throw that out there just in case people want to explore the options. But having said that, let's get into the review. Now, the story ends up following typical lit RPG fashion. This dude ends up dying. Soul gets sent to the afterlife, which is a lit RPG. He ends up being inducted into the Shadow Society or the Shadow Faction, or basically the Shadow Group, whatever, and it has been put into this mission of bringing balance to the light and dark aspects of this lit RPG world. So be a little bit more complexity to it than that, but that's pretty much the gist of it. Now, I have to say I'm not the biggest fan of lit RPGs. There are a lot of interesting mechanics I like behind it. There are a lot of great storytelling elements that can be delivered through the writing, but unfortunately, a lot of the lit RPGs that I've read are just garbage. Now, the 10 steps on how to beat the Demon King, which is kind of like a spoof of Legend of Zelda. Really enjoyed that, and please forgive the light up there. The power is just wonky, and I can't get good lighting with what I got right here, so I just have to go with the light. So, with that book, I actually liked it. It actually had a really good sense of humor to it, and it was funny seeing kind of the spoof version of the Legend of Zelda. But I enjoyed that one. But there's a lot of other ones that I've read, even though I haven't reviewed them yet, that I did not like. And unfortunately, I felt the same way with this book, because one of the things that I've noticed that a lot of these books typically have are tropes, and they feed into these tropes like there's no tomorrow. It's kind of different because there was a similar thing with fantasy books with like the One Prophecy, the Great Journey, the Hero Journey Prophecy. You see those in a lot of fantasy books. Now I'm starting to see these certain tropes that are in these books. Now, one of the things that I wanted to say is overall plot stale. I'm sorry, it wasn't interesting. There were some interesting concepts put forth, and I would have loved the author to dive more into those, but he did not. And unfortunately, it just made this book boring. There was nothing interesting really going on. Yes, they have this overarching thing of balancing this light and shadow faction of gods that's going on, but it wasn't interesting. They didn't dive into it enough. And another reason that the story wasn't interesting is because the main character wasn't interesting. And this is one of the tropes that people tend to lean into with these lit RPGs. The guy is a loser. He had nothing going on in his life. He had nothing going on for himself. He's literally just, and for some reason, like it's like when they make gamers be, and people that like pop culture be these main protagonists, they're not interesting. All their lives is pretty much pop culture, video games, nothing else. They don't have any ambitions. They don't have any goals. They don't have friends. They don't have girlfriends. They don't have money. They're not in school. It's a lot of times, these from the ones that I've read, these are always the same things. They're losers. They don't have any confidence. They're cowards. They're unlikable people. And I found, and the main character, Dhane, I felt he was the exact same way. I was literally nothing about his character that's memorable, that sticks out. Nothing. Yes, they try to bring in a bit of humor with his character, and it seems like instead of a personality, a lot of these characters come off with sarcasm, pop culture references to replace and this fake humor to replace a personality. I didn't like it in the ones that I've read before this. I did not like it in this. It's literally just a blank slate. And then kind of one of the things that I will point out, the fact that yes, he passed away, and the fact that he didn't have any memory of his previous life, even though he did have memories of his previous life to a certain extent. there was like no emotional arcs going on with that. Him not wanting to, missing his family, him not wanting to go back. All of that was just wiped away. And it's like, so why are we investing in this character when there's nothing to him? So that was the biggest part. The whole idea of this light and shadow thing wasn't done well, not in my opinion. For these stakes to be as big as they are in this story, they're glossed over pretty much. There was an interesting character. This guy is what they call an Arachnomancer, and he has the ability, I guess, to interact with spiders. A very interesting mechanic, and I was looking forward to seeing how creative the author can be with this. How, him potentially gaining the powers of spiders, him controlling spiders, what he can do with that. Being able to eavesdrop on conversations, kidnap people, have giant spiders at his beck and call, like all of those interesting concepts. The whole Arachnomancer is a good, interesting concept. And that's what made me want to read the book. This book does not dive into that in the slightest. Yes, he ends up getting this giant spider named Autarilus. I forgot. I'm messing up the name. And I liked that character more than I liked him. And even she or he, I believe it was a she, it didn't really have much going on. I felt like, in fact, there's a book called The Land, and the main character hated him because he was the same exact thing. And there was a dragon that he had, and that dragon enabled him with everything. Yeah, it might talk crap, but it always praised him and for being the best, even though it did, you know what I'm saying? Even though he did a bunch of dumb stuff. And this character's kind of the same way. This spider's afraid of him. Why? Yes, they're linked or whatever, but there's no reason for the spider. And the guy hates spiders, which was another interesting concept. That it was a thing within the story, but I don't think it did a good enough job of establishing him getting over his fear of spiders. Even though they actually did give an interesting. They gave a backstory for why he has this trauma with spiders, which kind of feeds back into the whole thing of him remembering his past life. Which, convenient enough, he remembered that, but didn't remember how he felt about his family and stuff like that. But that's neither here nor there. But I don't think him overcoming that fear, I don't think that he hit the mark on that. The mother shadows was interesting. Their sisters of death, interesting characters, totally underutilized. Didn't think that they had packed enough punch. The other characters within the story, some were kind of interesting. There was this guy that was like training all of the new recruits, and interesting character. There was this sect of priestesses of the light side or whatever that was looking for the shadow person, the person with the shadow faction. Thought that character was actually pretty interesting. Completely underutilized, in my opinion. There was a guy named Leon who was in prison that Dhane ends up kind of getting to know. I thought he was actually a pretty interesting character. And just what he does, another thing, just like, honestly, Dhane is literally the worst part of the story. And I feel like they took him out and just kind of dealt with all the other characters. It was a very much interesting story. The whole divinity idea with these gods, and what it is you go there's an animal, and you align yourself with that animal, and I guess that animal gives you certain abilities, and there's a light and shadow side to this. That whole stuff was not properly set up. You don't know. They're saying it's this weird imbalance of shadow and light, and there's more light than shadow, and you're like, okay, so are there other agents of shadow that he hasn't met yet? How big are these organizations? What gods are part of this? Okay, what are the stakes? Where are they located? If we're doing this whole espionage thing, surely he's going to have more support from other people that's a part of the shadow. Okay, the light is somehow gaining an advantage of recruiting people on their side. So what are y'all plans to counteract that? It's like those questions matter and stuff like that. but you don't really get that. God characters for the most part suck. Again, I like the Mother Shadow. I thought she was an interesting character, totally underutilized. The whole lit RPG mechanics in the book, I think more of them as them being touched on, but not fully developed. I cannot remember almost anything from reading this book about him leveling up, how he implemented special abilities. There was one certain set more towards the end when he starts utilizing it, but before that, he doesn't level up. He's a gamer. You would think he would grind. He doesn't. And I'm not saying I'm not one of those heavy RPG elements in books, but I would like to have seen him, since he has knowledge of gaming world and stuff like that. You would think he would say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and grind, try to get special abilities. So when I go undertake this mission, I'm not weak. I at least can be a stronger character. Doesn't do that. He just goes into this, makes all of the wrong decisions. I'm telling you, every decision this man made was just dumb. Completely dumb. I was so pissed off by the end of the book. I was like, come on. The only actual more interesting character than him, the character that's more interesting than him that's with him ends up biting a farm in the stupidest way. And I was like, you set this up and you just showed yourself not to be a coward, but tried to play it back, but you're not. And you just made this big old spectacle knowing you couldn't back it up. What was you thinking? So I didn't like that. But that's not to say that as much as I did not like this book, there aren't some interesting things that I did enjoy from it. I will say the humor, bad. Did not like the humor. Pop culture references, sarcasm, does not just, you have to do more than that with me. I did like the giant spider that was with him. I wish there was a bit more, she had a bit more personality, a bit more back and forth. Hell, I will say I did like the humor of her saying she would just eat people. I thought that was kind of funny. Hey, this person disappeared. What happened to him? Oh, I ate him. Funny. I didn't mind that one because that's all she wanted to do was protect him and eat people. But her character's completely underutilized. I'm like, all of these sequences that she could have helped save your life and got you out of the situation, you deliberately chose not to use her. Stupid. The RPG elements that are there, I like the concept of it. Wish we could have dug into it a little bit more. The world itself, interesting concept. Wish we could have dug into it a bit more, explored it a bit more. I honestly thought that, again, the author had an interesting idea. It's not something new, but it's interesting, especially with the Arachnomancer angle to it. But I will say the best I could give this is the audio design. The production side of it, I didn't mind the audio. I thought the people narrated did a great job. Qarie, Marshall, and Reba Buhr, great job with the narration. You can't take that away from them. But having said that, I always hate reading bad books that have potential. Because, come on now, Arachnomancer, all the stuff that you can do with a spider. And I hate spiders. I don't like spiders. I think they're gross. But I like to see interesting ideas be done right. If that was the case in this book, I would have been, this easily could have been 4 out of 5. 5 out of 5. But unfortunately, it feels like it just, not really lazy. It just doesn't fully step up to the table. And maybe this book just isn't made for me. And I ain't got nothing against the guy who wrote it. I just think that the book just, it ain't good. I will say, hey, if you're interested in this type of lit RPG stuff, maybe this more be up your alley. But unfortunately, I didn't like it. Even though I didn't mind some of the writing concepts that the author had, the idea itself was interesting. There are a couple of interesting characters here and there. And the narration was really, really, really good. Unfortunately, I didn't like the story. The RPG elements weren't strong enough to me. Did not like the main character. I hated, when I say hated, I hated the main character. And just all of these other characters that could have been more, just more deep, more complex, could have been something that elevated this book. But unfortunately, I can't say that I just, all I can say is, wrong Divinity. Oh shit. I effing hate spiders gets 1 out of 5. A part of me wants to go and read the other 2 books to see that a lot of my complaints or anything have been addressed. Like, you know, characters be better written, the main protagonists be much more interesting, the grinding a bit more, deeper storytelling, deeper RPG mechanics, just everything that I don't like about this book. I want it to be much better. I'm interested to see if 2 and 3 are you know, because sometimes your first book ain't the best, but then your second and your third book actually turn things around. And I'm hoping it go that way, but right now, this honestly just made me just not want to read the rest of the series. But having said that, in the comment section below, guys, let me know, what are your thoughts? Have you read this book? Have you not read this book? What did you think if you did read this book? And also, what are some good lit RPG recommendations? Do not say The Land. I do not like The Land. There are some interesting elements in the story that I like. I hate the main protagonist. I hate the way the author writes those books. Do not recommend The Land. But having said that, be sure to hit that like, share, subscribe, and the notification button to get the best of what we got going on the channel. And we'll catch you guys later.